So today I just want to go over one PPC topic that is usually brought up, and I think that's really important for the optimizations. And the question basically is, what is a healthy PPC to sales ratio? So I would say this is something that definitely can change. But in this LinkedIn post, I go over it. But in this video, I just want to dig a little bit deeper. And what I'm going to do moving forward is I will just dig every LinkedIn post that I have a little bit deeper on the video so that it gets more technical. So the outline for the overall PPC sales to sales ratio is one, there's an introduction phase, right? So this is called a launch phase. And in launch phase, what we are doing is we are actually pushing the advertising. We are just making sure that we are getting organic rankings and the So the KPIs here are, it can be ranking, it can be BSR, it can be sales, but again, the biggest KPI here is ranking. It's not ACOS, it's not TACOS, and also the conversion rate, which is something that should also be checked. And in this phase, you can actually start all the way up to 80-90% of PPC, and that should gradually come down to around 50%. So again, it's okay to go up to the 90%, 80%, and then it should gradually, week after week, should come down to 70s, 60s, and such. So then after we have successfully launched the product, and assuming that we had a successful launch, our conversion rate is strong, and like looking at the Helium 10, we are seeing organic ranking improving, top 10s and everything, then we can consider that we are in a growth phase. So in the growth phase, this is something I consider most of the products are actually in this place. Because being in the maturity phase, or hyper maturity phase, I would say, is a little bit hard. But let's just go with the growth phase. So growth phase, I would say probably 80%, 90% of the 80% of the products on Amazon is on this phase. So you should be aiming around, again, 55% to not maybe 30, but at least 40%, 45% of advertising share, and 30% might be here a little bit, I would say, optimistic here. But again, the aim here now is TACOS. It is also making sure that we are getting the sales. And the maturity phase is something different. So in this phase, what we have here is we are only doing this for the products that are super successful. I would say maybe Amazon's, like, I don't know, 10% of the products would go into this category. Maybe 5% of the products would go into this category. And in this category, what we are doing is we are actually reducing the advertising spend, and then we are keeping our organic ranking similar. So what you should be doing here is that, for example, you have your Helium 10. Let's make this one a little bit bigger. You have your Helium 10, the KPI, and you have your advertising spend, which automatically turns into TACOS, right? And Helium 10 has the rankings. So what you want to do is, let's say that I have keyword 1 and keyword 2, and let's say keyword 3. What I want to do with this is, so let's call this ads part. This is Helium 10 part, all right? So on the Helium 10 part, I want to get those keywords and I want to track them. I want to make sure they are being tracked. This is super important. And there is actually the third part. Let's also call it SQPR part, SQP report part. So as you know, we have Search Query Performance Report on Amazon. This is also something super important, which I will have a couple of videos already. So we also want to have those keywords also being tracked on SQPR, meaning that we want to see how our market share changes. Market share. So we're gonna track. So this is gonna be the action, what we are tracking, and this is gonna be the KPI. What is the KPI that we are tracking? So here we are tracking ranking. Here we are tracking market share, and the ads part, what we are doing action is move keywords into single keyword campaigns. Make sure that the traction is only on the single keyword campaigns, and cut the budgets gradually. Yeah, exactly. We are cutting it down. We are not gonna push it. We're just gonna pull back, even though the product is super successful on those keywords. And of course, the KPI for this part is going to be lower ad spend, right? That we want to see if the ad spend is actually coming down or not. So what we want to see with these actions is that you want to see, let's say on keyword 1, we are cutting the ads, let's say by 20%. So we were spending, I don't know, $1,000 on a keyword. Now we are spending $800 on a keyword. But what I also want to see while cutting 20% week after week is that I want to see my market share. Let's say my market share is like 10% on this keyword consistently over the weeks, and I was number 3 in this position. I want to see 10% staying as is and position 3 staying as is. So if this is something that can be met, this is perfect. What happened is that we are still getting our organic ranking, we still have a perfect market share, but we actually cut down our advertising 20%, which is actually helping our tacos to go down. So this is the part where I mentioned the maturity phase or hyper maturity phase, where we are cutting the advertising. So again, this is something that you would only do for great products, I would say, with great conversion rates and strong rankings over the play, like all over the keywords, like 1 to 4 positions and such stuff like that. Keep that in mind. And the last one is just gonna be the decline trend. So what we are doing here is we have minimal to no advertising share to combat the market pressure. So what's happening is that we can actually cut the advertising, but then we also need to make sure that we have a super competitive pricing. So when we do that, our pricing is the factor that we are using for marketing, basically. And this way you can lower it. You can lower your advertising, but you're also lowering your pricing, which ends up with maybe a similar margin at the end. But again, this is something that we don't want to do. We are doing this just because we might have to do it, because of the competitive pricing, because of the market pressure and everything. But yeah, those are all the things that we can do to understand how a healthy PPC to total sales ratio would look like. And again, we focused a little bit on the maturity phase, where we understood how we can actually cut down our tacos even further without losing any sales. So yeah, that should be all from this video, and I'll see you on the next one.